Over the years, so many women sent me emails or messages or came to me in person to explain an ever-recurring problem that they have gone through. And every single time I have great difficulties responding to them. I often do not know what exactly to say because it's a very personal and very hurtful matter. And that is the matter of women being persuaded or deceived or lured into converting to Islam through a romantic relationship. In so many cases, women have sent me emails or women came to me in person and have told me their stories, and every single time it's very hurtful to listen to. They have gone through great suffering. They started out at some point coming from a not so pleasant background, sometimes from quite alright backgrounds, with backgrounds where they disliked their original culture or their religion which they were brought up with, backgrounds where they were simply interested in this other religion, this other culture, Islam, and where they met some Muslim man and became convinced that Islam is actually a very good system, Islam is a very good faith, Islam is a very good religion, and a Muslim is a perfect husband that can provide a wonderful, beautiful, safe future. Many of these women are told about problems, but they choose to simply disregard them or simply think, no, this is all just propaganda, this is all just wrong, these are all just misconceptions. I know, I will go into it and it will turn out very, very well. So many women, I can't possibly remember the number of those women, came to me and experienced the very same thing, and to other critics of Islam. They converted to Islam because they met somebody, or they didn't convert because they were told they don't have to convert. They just need to get married to this Muslim man. They got together, eventually ended up getting pressured and converting. Then they started raising and having children, and they quickly realized that life is not quite as beautiful and the grass is not quite as green as it looked from over here. They were trapped. Many of them tried to find a way out of the situation. Many of them are stuck and still want to find a way out of that situation, but are desperate and don't really know what to do. So many of them have freed themselves, but now deal with so much suffering, with so many legal problems, safety problems, other problems. Many of them are separated from the very children that they gave birth to, that they mothered. So today I want to finally sit down and talk about this and give women out there who might be facing something like this reasons why they should not do this and why they should not convert to Islam, why they should not find such relationships, in solidarity with all those who have suffered in the past. The first giveaway for how bad this situation actually is the ruling, the legal aspect of how marriage works in Islam between a man and a woman, or to be more precise, between a believer, a Muslim, and a disbeliever, a non-Muslim. Muslim women are not allowed to marry non-Muslim men. Muslim men, however, are allowed to marry Christian and Jewish women under the condition that they will slowly turn them into Muslims. This is also generally discouraged. They are supposed to pressure them into becoming Muslims and then marry them. But you can already see that the emphasis here is on the men being in charge of where the religion goes, where the faith goes. And there might be nothing wrong with that, but the primary issue here is the religion, the dominance of the religion. It is not a matter of relationship, of wellness, of what the woman actually wants, of what the man actually wants. Islam is a system of pure submission, and everything is done to serve submission. First off, the conversion to Islam usually happens under pressure from the Muslim men, from their Muslim families, from their Muslim environments. Many women are told that they are fine. They don't have to necessarily convert to Islam. They don't have to necessarily do everything that Islam demands of them. They don't necessarily have to abide by everything. Some are told this. In fact, many, I would say probably most, are told something like this. But the pressure is always there. And eventually the women are slowly coerced into becoming Muslim and becoming a good, obedient Muslim wife. Because that's what the culture, what the religion itself demands. Islam doesn't allow Muslim women to marry non-Muslim men. It allows Muslim men to marry non-Muslim Christian women or Jewish women, but is also generally discouraged. What is encouraged is to convert them to Islam, because Islam is what matters, and Islam is what is most important in the end. Your feelings and all your dreams and all of that do not really matter. As a non-Muslim who comes into the Islamic system, you might think that you will be given some understanding and some leniency, but as soon as you do convert to Islam, the pressure starts, and you will be given an expectation to fully obey and to fully become part of the Islamic system, of becoming a humble and obedient Muslim wife. And this should not be understated. According to the Quran itself, and this is by no means simply propaganda or a lie or a misconception, according to the Quran itself, in chapter 4, verse 34, men are in charge of women, and men may advise women if they only fear arrogance of the women, then separate them in beds as punishment, and finally beat them if the women do not obey. You would be shocked to hear how many of these women initially think, okay, it seems reasonable that the man has some authority, or think, yeah, it's probably not that bad, probably won't go that far, and then end up being completely battered and abused in these relationships. It happens so often. The horror stories are endless, incredible. What happens is generally very often that the Muslim man, after marriage, decides to move the family to a Muslim country. When they stay in Western countries, things are a little bit easier for the woman if she decides to eventually get out of the situation and seek help, but even then things are difficult. Unfortunately, we live in a very strange time where Western nations are softened and turned into naive cultures where authorities in the West often don't want to deal with Muslims and Muslim culture and don't want to interfere. And even as a Western woman, if you go to the authorities, you often have great difficulties to have them interfere. If you go to a Muslim country and live with a husband over there, things get incredibly difficult. I've talked to so many women who started raising a family there and quickly realized that the culture shock is significantly greater than anything that they experienced or prepared themselves for. And they eventually ended up wanting to leave, wanting to get out, because they were trapped and mistreated. And they had to, when they did get out, they had to leave their children behind and could never see their children again, or were threatened, had to make some harsh compromises. There are things to understand with the Islamic legal system and the Islamic culture when it comes to marriage, such as when a woman or when a person converts to Islam, this is considered a strictly binding permanent agreement. Islam does not allow leaving the religion. Legally, historically, jurisprudentially, converting to Islam means you bind yourself to Muslims as a whole, as a nation, as a group, as a tribe. And if you leave Islam, that is called apostasy, and that is treated as treason. So leaving Islam doesn't just mean you have changed your mind, you no longer believe in this, or you want to go a different way. It means you're turning your back and thereby betraying the entirety of the Muslim community that constantly considers itself at war with the rest of the world. It is literally considered an act of treason to the Muslims, to Islam. And apostasy is treated with the death penalty, where it is applicable. In many countries today, the apostasy laws are still there. In many other countries where apostasy is not punished with death or with beatings or with prison, a woman who leaves Islam or a man who leaves Islam loses all their familial rights and everything. So if you as a woman leave Islam, you leave everything to the husband that you have abandoned, that you have left behind, and you lose custody. In countries where this is not enforced, it is usually enforced by the Muslim community and by the Muslim families, by their family members. It might even be that you encounter a Muslim man who is not that bad. But Muslim culture is different. There is something bad about the complete abandonment of Western individualism. Muslim men are usually, no matter how independent, no matter how strong they are very, very much bound to obey their culture, their parents and others. They might make promises to you of, I will take care of you, I will defend you, I will take care of you, if you need to do something differently, I will stand up for you. In practice, it usually does not work that way. Muslim men generally obey the culture, their elders, their families. And if their families don't like you and what you did and want to punish you, the Muslim men will often obey that and eventually will not stand up for you. This is only a mild case. Things can get much worse. I've talked to many who escaped brutal beatings, threats, death threats from the supposedly nicest, kindest men that they got together with. As said, the Quran establishes that Muslim men are in charge of women. Now, many Muslim men might not be in favor of beating their wives, of hitting their wives, of hurting them. The issue is that Islam is a constant system of legality. Islam doesn't care about what you think and how you feel. When I was a Muslim myself, I had a general problem with the idea that if I go to paradise as a Muslim, I would end up being given pure virgins in heaven that I would have endlessly have sex with. And I was raised in a culture where I kind of considered that a little bit bizarre. When I became a devout religious Muslim, I actually raised that issue, and I thought, I accept that this is a reward from Allah, but I don't really see myself as really agreeing to that. So whenever I did raise that issue, I was told, this is what you think right now. Allah knows better what is best for you. Similarly, Allah knows better, according to that logic, what is best for the man and for the family. And Allah does command, not just advise, He does command the disciplining and beating of women. And this can always be talked into a Muslim man by their religious leaders and elders. And stuff like this usually gets significantly more emphasized and serious once that person marries. As explained earlier, leaving Islam is punished with death and with other things. Normatively, Muhammad said that anybody who leaves Islam should be killed. Which is why, vastly in Islamic history, in Islamic jurisprudence, across the main schools of Islam to this day, the norm and the law was to execute those who leave Islam. Now, when it comes to women, there are some difficulties, some differences, where it is discussed in Islamic history whether a woman should also be put to death. Some of the scholars agree that she should be put to death. Others say a woman should be locked up until she repents. However, there is no escaping a brutal punishment or a severe legal punishment, a severe social punishment, and you really don't want to ruin your life and end up in that situation where you have to complain for the rest of your life and repent and think about the suffering and try to seek help and try to get with your children again, or try to get over this situation for the rest of your life. There are more surprises than simply being persecuted for leaving Islam. The issues often also arise very, very early on. I have talked to many women who did end up marrying a seemingly very nice man who was all committed to them. Unfortunately, once the women got married to these men or moved to their countries and joined their communities, they found out that the man in question already has a wife. Or in other cases, the man ended up getting another wife after taking this wife in secret. In the West, it is often done in secret. In some other Muslim countries, it is done in secret. In many Muslim countries and environments, it is done with a blessing from the mosque or from their community. Islam allows polygyny, it allows polygamy, it allows a man to marry multiple wives. And contrary to popular modern belief or modern Muslim belief, the men don't actually have to care at all about what the first wife or the second wife or the third wife thinks. A man may, as granted and authorized by the Quran, take up to 4 women as wives, if they wish, if they want, if they can provide for them, if they can be just to them. And justice is very arbitrary by Islamic standards. So a situation like this is completely acceptable and actually very common in Islam and in traditional Islamic societies. A woman gets married to a man. The man is a very nice guy, very committed, but this man goes out, finds another woman, and decides to simply marry her too, and keep that second woman secret, and have a third wife, keep her a secret, have a fourth wife and keep her as a secret. He's usually allowed to do that. In many circumstances, it's not usually a secret. It's usually, hey, I decided to marry another woman. She is now also my wife, just so you know. Of course, you may end up thinking, I didn't agree to this. How could this be? And you might seek help from the Muslim authorities. What the Muslim authorities will tell you is that a man has the right to marry a woman. You have no say in this. You are just another woman. You don't have a say in this. You don't have a right to make any decision in this regard. And a man might even lie to you, use white lies or black lies to hide a second or third or fourth wife, just to evade problems that he might have with you because you might bicker too much about it or something like that. This is extremely common. Another issue is that the expectations, the pressure on the woman will severely increase after marriage is complete. As said, I do not mean to say this in an insulting way, but Muslim men are often babies in terms of social relationships and things like that. And they will easily submit to what their society and what their elders and what their parents and what their religious leaders demand from them. They will go with whatever is being said. It is a very deeply collectivist and obedience, submission-based culture. Islam literally means submission, and it's supposedly submission to Allah, but it's also submission by the person to the culture, to Islam in general. Divorce is a very difficult matter. A man might at any point divorce his wife, without any proper reason even. A wife might not simply divorce her husband. In Muslim countries, a woman who wants to divorce her husband is often faced with, one, an honor culture that can become very, very dangerous, because a man doesn't want to have his reputation tarnished. And so things can get extremely ugly. Or, two, more traditionally Islamically, a woman will have to be sent to a religious authority, to a court, to establish why exactly she wants a divorce. If you already get into problems with Islam and Islamic authority and Islamic culture, good luck with that. You will have to explain yourself. You will have to fear and actually count on the guarantee that things will not be in your favor at all. The situation, the way out of that is extremely difficult. So don't do it. Everything aside, a conversion should never be done for marriage to begin with, if that's why you're marrying. A conversion to a faith should be done because you actually believe in that religion. Of course, if you get involved in a romantic relationship, if you are enticed by some person, your mind gets a little bit confused and biased and influenced and drunk, and you might suddenly in a strange way view this Islamic religion as quite reasonable and quite true, because something like your hormones drive you toward accepting this relationship in some way or another. But one should never accept a religion out of pressure, out of relationships, out of anything like that. It should be done only with a very clear mind, with proper conviction, with actual conviction that this religion is true. And there are so many reasons why Islam is not true, why Islam is completely false. In fact, if you want to find out more about why Islam is false, you can watch so many videos by myself, by David Wood, by many other critics, to find out how terribly wrong and ignorant Islam actually is. That would actually be the primary reason why nobody, including women, should convert to Islam. I hope this helps women, or this helps prevent women from getting into that situation. It breaks my heart every single time that I encounter something like this. And I would love to somehow do my part and contribute to stopping this terrible suffering from happening to others. And if you are in such a situation, you can always reach out and ask for help. If I can't help you, maybe I can find somebody else who can help you with that situation. But primarily, what I want to tell you is, nobody should convert to Islam. But specifically, and especially women, should never, ever convert to Islam. Thanks for watching.